Hello again, everybody. This is Rocket Rick J18, and today it's my pleasure to talk with you about some exhibit cards that my friend Scott at Stooks Cards and Curiosities sent to me for a very favorable price, and I'm very grateful to Scott for doing so. Um, and he sent them to me along with one other card that's not an exhibit card, plus I have three other cards that I want to add to this because they're all of the same size, more or less, as the as the exhibit cards, and I thought it would be kind of fun to show them in the same video, but they are cards that I purchased on eBay, so not not cards that came from Scott. And these are all doubles that Scott had, by the way. And before I turn the camera down to look at the cards, I want to show you what he did for each of these cards. He put a yellow sticky note. He actually had them on this side of the card, but I moved them around so that they wouldn't be in the way from viewing the pictures. But that's he looked at each of these cards very carefully to see what they said and how they were put together, because if you know all of those things, you can pretty much show the dates of these cards, or give the dates of these cards, and that's interesting to know. So this is the first one, and I put them in alphabetical order. So I'm going to turn the camera down now so you can better see them, because after all, that's really what YouTube is all about, isn't it? Showing cards. There we go. So the first card is George Case, and this is a 1947 exhibit card, the first year of the series of exhibit cards from 1947 to 1966. And George was with the Washington Senators, and he's shown on base here. I think his last year in the big leagues might have been 47, 48. I think he was one of those guys who got a chance to play when he was during World War II, and a lot of players that played during those years, it really was their opportunity to play on a regular basis. So we are grateful again to Scott for doing all of those things. And the next card is Phil Cavarretta, who played his career with the Chicago White Sox. And I think that's kind of an interesting, I'm sorry, the Chicago Cubs, not the White Sox. One of the interesting things I learned during the baseball trip that I took with a friend of mine years ago, is that at that time the Chicago White Sox were still in Comiskey Park, which was at 35th and Shields, and on the south side of Chicago, and the White Sox were as many blocks north of the center of the city as the White Sox were south. So they were 35 blocks north, and the White Sox 35 blocks south. just a bit of trivia that I thought was pretty interesting. The new ballpark that the White Sox play in is built right across the street, so you take the same elevated train and get off at the same South Side station because they're just right across the street. So, and the old stadium is now the parking lot for the ballpark. So that's Phil Cabaretta, and more than you probably wanted to know about Chicago. And that's about all I know about Chicago, really. I've been there several times since, and I have seen a game in the stadium that the White Sox play in. I've forgotten the name because it's named after whoever the highest bidder was, and that changes from time to time. So they changed the name of the park without moving the stadium. Mort Cooper's brother, incidentally, was Walker Cooper. The next card is a 1963 exhibit version of, and it's got the stats on the back, which I'll show you just real quickly here. In the 63, the stats were all in red. And so, again, Joe Cunningham was a longtime White Sox player, mostly through the 50s and early 60s. The next one is a 1947 version of Guy Curtright. And Guy Curtright in 1947 played with the White Sox. And I'm not sure that that's a White Sox uniform, but it might be. Next is Murray Dixon, who is in a Cardinals uniform, and this is from 1947. Later on, he played for the Pittsburgh Pirates. So that I knew from seeing his baseball cards in the early 50s. Next is Billy Goodman, and he is, let's see, this is a 1959 and 1961 exhibit card, and he was with the White Sox at that time. Next is a pitcher, Orville Grove, not to be confused with Lefty Grove, and he was with the Chicago White Sox at this time, 1947. Next up is one of my favorite players from this era. He was played primarily in right field with the New York Yankees, although sometimes he filled in for Joe DiMaggio in center field. A pretty valuable player. Hit the first World Series walk-off home run in 1941, which I thought was a pretty interesting factoid. And this card is in pretty good shape. It's got a couple of nicks here and probably won't grade very high, but I'm going to send it away to be graded. so that it can join his Yankee brother Joe DiMaggio in the graded version of this card. And this is from the years 1947 to 1951. Next is Kirby Higbee, and this is from 1947. He started the season with Brooklyn, but was traded because, so I'm told at least, he didn't really want to play with Jackie Robinson. And since the Dodgers went to all the trouble to make Jackie the first player of African American descent to play in the modern major leagues, like they did play in the 90s, 1890s, I guess I should say, or at least early on, because that was allowable at that time up until Cap Anson, who was a big time player, important player in the before the turn of the century, Hall of Famer. He didn't want to play with black players either, and he got him banned from the entire league, which I thought was a little unfair. So Kirby Higbee was dispatched to the Pirates later in 1947 after not very many games. The next card is also a Yankee outfielder, played a lot, mostly in left field with the Yankees, and so he would join Joe DiMaggio and Tommy Henrich, and just had the thought that, well, maybe I ought to get this graded too, so they can all be together in the same outfield. And this is this is a 1936 Salutation, 46 Salutation, which was also issued this way in 1947. But it's a best wishes Salutation card. Next is a 1947 card with which they generally only have the player's name in script diagonally across the bottom. And you can tell that this is a 1947 card because the script for Made in the USA is to the right. Most of the Salutation cards were to the left. And although some of them are to the right too, and mostly those are from the last year. And this is Buddy Lewis with the Washington Senators. Self-explanatory. That's what the W stands for, right? Next is a 1946, Salutation exhibit. In 1946 was the year that these are over to the right. And Howard Pollett was with the Detroit Tigers. No, I'm sorry, St. Louis Cardinals. Our next player is a catcher. Sorry about that. And this shows him in a Milwaukee Braves uniform in a Phillies hat. So I'm not quite sure how that was done that way or why that was done that way, but he did play for both of those teams in 1959. And obviously, he was a backup catcher. Um, Del Crandall was the principal catcher for the Phillies, or for the Braves, and Stan Lapata was the principal catcher for the '59 Phillies. Next, we come to a New York Giants player, Eddie Stanky, nicknamed the Brat, and that's 1952 exhibit card. And next, after those, is Vern Stevens, Junior Stevens, sometimes known as. He is in a Cardinals uniform because that's how he started out the year, but he was traded to the Boston Red Sox and appeared for both teams during the period 1947 to 1950, are the years that this card was issued. Junior Stevens played third base and was really an integral part of the Red Sox during those years. I think he was on the 48 and 49 teams that finished a grand total of one game out of first place during the two regular seasons, which I think is a pretty hard thing to do, but they finished one game ahead of the Red Sox in 40, or ahead of the one game behind the Red Sox. No, I'm saying this wrong. One game behind the Boston Braves in 48, and finished tied with Cleveland. I'm getting that wrong. I'm just getting it all screwed up. They finished one game behind Cleveland in 48, and one game or tied with Cleveland and played when it went to the playoffs in 48, and finished one game behind the Yankees in 49. That's correct. And this is Fred Dixie Walker in a Detroit uniform, which is where he played in 1946. And I can't, I was looking at this hat and I said Detroit. He was with the Cardinals in 1946. So he's in a Cardinals uniform. But it does kind of look like Detroit, doesn't it? And the last card I'm going to show you is from a 1951 exhibit. And it's still made in USA. Later in the 50s, they changed to printed in USA. And so that's what kind of dates the card. That and the smaller script made in USA as opposed to the larger 1-inch versions that came later. So this is Vic Wertz, and he is in a Detroit uniform. And of course, as we know, that dates him as well because By 1954, he was with the Cleveland Indians. And of course, everyone remembers that Vic Wertz is the guy who hit the ball about as far as you can hit it in the polo grounds without it going out. And the miraculous catch that Willie Mays said, even though I think it's miraculous, even though Willie said, I had it all the way. I knew I was going to catch it when I started going back. And he went straight back. It was all virtually hit right straight over his head. So that's Vic Wertz. The last card I'm going to show you that came from Scott, Stooks Cards and Curiosities, is this card. And this is an O-PEE-CHEE 1969 Decal Edge card of Maury Wills. And you can tell it's O-PEE-CHEE because it has a blank back. So I'm very happy to have that. And Scott just threw this card in as a free gift came with the exhibit cards. Now these cards, I think, look a little something like the exhibits, but they're on much flimsier stock, just thin paper, and they are 1936 Goudey premiums, sometimes called the wide pens because of the thickness of the signatures. And this one, of course, is Pepper Martin with the St. Louis Cardinals, part of the Gas House gang. Not in the Hall of Fame, but he's one of those players that certainly should be given some consideration by the Eras Committee whenever they come around. Really a pretty good player. Worthy of consideration for the Hall of Fame, if not election. This is Pittsburgh Pirates Cy Blanton from the 1936 fine pen set, so-called because the script is much thinner than the wide pen version. Same year, 1936. There are some 1937 fine pens. Same issue, different year, and probably the most famous one or best known one is Hall of Famer Bobby Doerr's rookie card or rookie year. His rookie card is considered to be the 1948 Leaf, 49 Leaf, or his 1949 Bowman. Both cards can be considered to be his rookie cards. But this is the 47 fine pen it really is from his rookie year. Cy Blanton was I think I said was with the Pirates. And the last card I have to show you is from the Union Novelty Company of Los Angeles, California, and it is Joe DiMaggio. Now, the Union Novelty Company was around in Los Angeles, and this card is taken from it's not dated, but it's a postcard, and it's from the later, I think from the 1960s, when this particular card was issued. So, but it cost $5, and it's a photograph Joe DiMaggio. So who wouldn't want that? Especially not for especially for $5. So I only tell you the price because if you have a chance to pick one up, it's not going to break the bank. Unlike some of his other cards, not playing days, but the picture was taken during playing days, obviously. So that's my report to you on the larger format cards, plus the 69 Decal Edge O-PEE-CHEE card, which came with the exhibit. So thanks to Scott for sending those along and giving me the opportunity to purchase those at his duplicates for a very favorable price. And I think there were 19 of them. So it was a pretty good haul. And then the three larger format cards that I purchased on eBay. I hope you can't see this pop up, but anyway, I'm going to back to and sign off with my standard outro, which I think is a very humorous word. And so until we meet again, this is Rocket Rick J18, wishing that all your collecting dreams come true.